Hi, everyone. Jack Willard here, reminding you to join us for Worldwide Ramblings most Saturday nights at 11 p.m. East Coast time here at the Virtual Church of the Disillusioned. As soon as we complete the broadcast, which sometimes goes up to 2 hours or so because we're having so much fun, we also talk about important topics like the one I'm going to talk about now, and some provocative topics sometimes with people in the live stream. And we just have a great time, and we invite you to join us. But the program replays in the live section of our channel as soon as we complete the broadcast. Check out past live shows. Anyway, in this video, we're going to be talking about World War III. Are we on the verge of World War III? What can we do to stop it? It's must-hear information. So check it out. It's not a very long video, but it is a powerful video, made powerful by retired Colonel Douglas Macgregor, a West Point graduate. He was a decorated colonel, and he spoke a few weeks back with Tucker Carlson on Twitter. I don't think it was yet X when he appeared, but you can find that right here on YouTube, the interview with Colonel Macgregor. It is riveting. And then after we quote some of what the colonel had to say, I'll talk about the fact checker, Soldier Macbeth, that came on and try to explain away a lot of what he said. So stay tuned. It's worth your time. Colonel Macgregor told Tucker, "We are on the brink of a catastrophic war. A catastrophic war. All of the lies about the Ukraine is winning is wrong." You know, I have heard, especially on CNN, MSNBC, them inferring that when the Ukrainians won a battle, that they were now taking charge and the direction had changed and they were going to win this war. You can win the battle, but lose the war. We've all heard that. And it was never more true than what's going on in the Ukraine today. And then, of course, we have the war hawks, Nikki Haley and Mike Pence, many senators on and on, that say we must win this war in the Ukraine. Well, what if it's not possible? What if it's not possible? The colonel says the Ukrainians have lost over 400,000 soldiers. 40 to 50,000 are now amputees. Hospitals are full. There is, he says, a massive surrender to Russians. Forces are being swept away. Putin was never interested in a war with NATO nor the U.S. And of course, the U.S. is part of NATO. If we intervene, the Russians will be ready. It's important that we understand all the implications. Can't, say, well, let me just play my Xbox and watch 90 Day Fiancé. We need to think about this because it will definitely affect all our lives. Young people's lives, old people's lives, it will affect everybody. We are not ready, says the colonel, if war breaks out on the, say, Poland border. We have lost the sense of what's right and what will work. Perhaps our leader here in America has lost any sense of what will work. And there's reasons for that. Many reasons. The defense right now, in some cases, looks like World War I. It's easy to identify ground vehicles that are outdated. And we did send a lot of outdated equipment to the Ukraine. We did. The smartest thing we could do is end the war. This is Colonel Macgregor speaking. The Russians are ready to use nuclear weapons. The Russians will never tolerate NATO forces on Ukrainian soil. They will never tolerate it. Ukraine was probably, now a lot of people won't like this statement from the colonel, and he's not talking about all the good people that were driven from their country by a brutal killer dictator named Vladimir Putin and ended up in Poland, Hungary, wherever. Many of them were killed before they were able to flee, including so many children. He's not talking about them. He's talking about, oh yes, the government of the Ukraine and the forces that were in the Ukraine that were allowed to operate. Was there a Nazi presence? Yeah, there actually was. But there is in many countries, isn't there? Zelensky is anxious to retire to a home he has in Florida. He was a comedian who pretended to be a transvestite in many of his stage shows. Did you know that? That was new for me. He ran on a peace platform initially. Now he wants to fight, not him, but he wants to send people to fight, men to fight, till the last Ukrainian or Ukrainian supporter that came over is dead. The Russians are weak, says Secretary Blinken and Jake Sullivan. And the colonel says, Russia, the truth is, Russia is now stronger than it was 40 years ago. Yes, they've lost up to 50,000 troops, but Putin has been careful not to deploy too many people, too many soldiers at one time. The Ukraine just pushes people out into the battlefield. Some people come from other countries, of course. They are often ill-prepared, not trained on the weapons that they're going to use, no understanding of really what's going on as they walk amongst a bombed-out shell, and they often get killed. So sad. The Russian machine, as the colonel refers to it, is grinding up everything in front of it. Missiles that we sent 33 dangerous missiles. Well, they ran out of those in a few hours. Russia is now up to 750,000 troops, and they will go past 1 million if they have to, or more. They are much better prepared now than they were in 2022, when they often look foolish. But it wasn't just that. The soldiers were having ill feelings about killing the Ukrainians, They saw them as brothers and sisters. They didn't want to kill children. But things have changed now. There's a new attitude here in the fourth quarter of 2023. The Russians feel now that they must prepare to fight the U.S. and NATO. They don't want to, but President Biden seems to be pushing them to do it in a sense. It will ultimately be Vladimir Putin's fault, all his fault. But Biden, for a number of reasons, is, by his own admission, bringing us closer to nuclear war than we have ever been before. And that ought to get your attention. That ought to make the hair on the back of your head stand up. The colonel also said as a footnote something that I thought was interesting. We give asylum seekers $2,200 a month as soon as they arrive in the U.S., climbing the fence, going through the barbed wire in some cases, however they get here, going through holes in the fence. If there is a fence, and there often isn't, there isn't a wall. Social Security recipients get an average of $1,400 a month. You can get as little as $900 a month if you didn't prepare properly on the books for your retirement. So the migrants get $2,200, and the Social Security recipient that worked for 30, 35, 40 years or more gets $1,400 or so. That's how it goes. Colonel McGregor says the strategy is get out. Get out. That's the only way to stop this. Most Americans would feel that way if they understood what's really going on in Ukraine and Russia. That is Colonel Macgregor. Now, when he did this well-received interview with Tucker on X/Twitter, a soldier named Ryan Macbeth did a fact-check video. If we've learned anything about fact-checking from the antics of CNN and MSNBC, New York Times, etc., is we often have to fact-check the fact-checkers. And I'm not saying that everything Soldier Macbeth says is wrong and that he has no insight because he was involved in the military strategy, weapons, how they were used. He knows something about it. I'm certainly not saying that he doesn't, but there are some things that I definitely take issue with. He begins his video by saying he's not a political person at all. He leaves the political stuff, for others. Well, first of all, if you don't know it, what you just said is then you're not going to have a complete understanding of this crucial, life-altering, life-ending, perhaps, situation. Because if you don't understand that President Biden has strong ties to the Ukraine and Zelensky, that Hunter Biden, for example, was on the Ukrainian payroll, you won't understand the loyalty that Biden has for the Ukraine, the obligation that he feels for the Ukraine. So right off the bat, you have no political understanding, you don't follow politics, as they say, then you won't be able to see the big picture. And that is what is lacking with you, Soldier Macbeth. You don't understand the big picture. You're a nitpicker, and sometimes you present a valid rebuttal. I'm not saying you don't. Sometimes you present valid rebuttal. But Macbeth says, nobody says Ukraine is winning. And then later he poo-poos the idea that Russia is winning. Well, who the hell else would it be? That's doublespeak. You at least say that in your video that you never said that Ukraine would win this war. In fact, you believe that Ukraine will lose this war. So that would mean Russia will win this war. So it seems like we're dealing in double speak here. It seems like we're not being clear, that we are being a little bit hypocritical, in my personal opinion. That's how I view it. I have, as I said before, I have heard many liberal, they're not really liberal, they're progressive pundits infer that things were turning around in the Ukraine. You know, you win a little battle and now you're inferring that they're going to win the war, which is utter nonsense. It's BS, and you know it. We can't get lost in anytime you have an expert on, like on how weapons function and what have you, they can get lost in all that and forget about what, as I say, is the big picture. And in this case, if you don't understand that, it could be the end of the world as we know it. I think that's a song, right? So you really have to understand that. As I said, people like Nikki Haley and former Vice President Pence have said, we must win this war in Ukraine. Peace by strength. But this is a whole different thing than when President Nixon said it. You know, things have changed radically, and we have to be very careful in what we do. And we can't become the banker and the puppet. The U.S. can't become that for Mr. Zelensky, because it could mean utter destruction. Oh, some will have a bunker to go to, won't they? They'll be protected from the radiation. But as former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who I love, says, we'll be left melting on the streets. We'll be left melting on the streets. So it's something that I think we might want to peruse. We might want to really think about our position. And don't tell me that you came to the interview or the video with no political bias at all when you immediately accuse Tucker Carlson of propaganda. Now, all he's doing here is asking very intelligent questions, and he's not trying to grandstand. His first Twitter video got 58 million views. The second one got 88 million views. So there's, I think, a jealousy from some people when you have that kind of success and you were, the number one voice on Fox. They should have never gotten rid of him, and we hope he gets back in that kind of a formatted show where everybody can see him, including Grandma and Grandpa with a clicker, because everybody misses Tucker that loved him, So, to dismiss Tucker Carlson as someone who just pushes propaganda doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't make me think favorably of you, Soldier Macbeth, because he's done some great work, and you couldn't get 88 million views if your family's life depended on it. So, I just don't feel that you're just a political, you're just not in any way attracted to political opinion, that you haven't thought about this in detail. Doesn't feel right to me. He calls what Tucker says and Tucker's just asking short questions, and the Colonel's doing 98.5% of the content. He calls what Tucker says is propaganda. He nitpicks over the dead and the wounded. That is outlined by the Colonel. He says, though, he doesn't know. He also says he doesn't know how Russia treats their wounded, but it doesn't look good. His information tells him it doesn't look good. Although he's not there, he doesn't have any specific information that if the Russians are working with those who surrender and perhaps trying to convert them and say, look, we're not bad people. We're not bad people over here in Russia. Leave Zelensky and join us. See how we treat them? Yeah, they got away from Zelensky because they know he's evil. That's what Putin would try to spin, They never believed in the war and all the casualties, but they were forced by Zelensky to do it. That could be a tactic that Putin would use. He disagrees with the Colonel's assessment that we are not ready, but he himself offers no concrete proof that we are ready to fight what would easily become World War III. He admits Russia is acquiring new, impressive technology. He's not aware of exactly what it is. Well, we do know since then, right, that now Russia has lined up with Kim Jong-un, with North Korea. And we also know, don't we, Mr. Soldier Macbeth, that China is very much involved. And that is the straw that will break the camel's back. So if you're a military strategist, that should be all you need to know. Don't nitpick because you're trying to tear everything the Colonel said apart. He may, obviously, and you admit that you have made mistakes. He might have misspoke a few times about a specific weapon or what have you. But the big picture, the picture he paints, is worth taking a look at. It's worth taking a look at. So yeah, Russia is acquiring new weapons, new technology. They're being funded by people that hate the USA, and there has never been more people, thanks to Joe Biden, that hate the USA. The Ukraine just pushes people out on the battlefield, as we said, and that is never going to be any good. So I think if you look at this interview with the colonel, the retired Colonel Macgregor, you will see that what he is saying holds a lot of truth, and it is certainly worth careful consideration. We have to decide if we are going to find ourselves in World War III, and it's not going to end well, but it will end for all of us if that should happen. We would not be able to hold it back. It would come right into the United States of America. And as Colonel Macgregor says, the best thing we can do is end this war.